Bill Cosby was known as America's dad. Then, dozens of women came forward and his legacy was destroyed. Through his stand-up comedy, hit television shows like The Cosby Show, and public advocacy for education and family values, Cosby built an image as a trusted, beloved figure. Throughout the 80s and 90s, he was seen as a moral role model across generations and communities. But then the rumors started trickling in. In the early 2000s, individual allegations surfaced accusing him of inappropriate behavior, but they were mostly ignored or quietly settled. Cosby continued touring and speaking. Until 2014, when a viral comedy routine by Hannibal Buress reignited public attention. And then the victims came out. In total, over 60 women came forward with allegations spanning decades. The details were graphic, consistent, and devastating. Many accused Cosby of using substances to incapacitate them before he committed acts of misconduct. Cosby and his legal team denied the claims, but the weight of testimony kept growing. Civil lawsuits followed, and eventually, criminal charges were filed. In 2018, Cosby was convicted on 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault and sentenced to prison. Although the conviction was later overturned on procedural grounds, the damage to his reputation was complete. Honorary degrees were revoked. Public institutions distanced themselves. The man once trusted to represent American family values had become a national scandal. And while the fall of a beloved TV father was hard to process, the next collapse started with 2 innocent people having their lives violently taken. O.J. Simpson was one of the most admired athletes in America, a Heisman Trophy winner at USC, and a record-breaking running back in the NFL. Simpson became a household name both for his achievements on the field and his successful transition into acting and commercial endorsements. He was a rare sports icon who became a trusted and familiar face in mainstream entertainment. But that image was destroyed in 1994 when Simpson was charged with abruptly ending the lives of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Ronald Goldman. After a live televised low-speed police chase that captivated the nation, Simpson surrendered and stood trial in what became the most-watched court case in American history. Despite substantial forensic evidence, Simpson was acquitted in 1995 after his dream team of high-profile defense attorneys challenged the credibility of the police investigation. The verdict split public opinion sharply along racial and social lines. In a separate civil case 2 years later, Simpson was found liable for the tragic events and ordered to pay $33.5 million in damages to the Goldman and Brown families. Simpson's public standing was profoundly damaged and never recovered. He later served 9 years in prison on unrelated charges involving robbery and kidnapping in Las Vegas. Our next hero survived cancer and then built his career and success on lies. Lance Armstrong was considered one of the most inspiring athletes of all time until the hidden truth came out, destroying his career and reputation. In 1996, Armstrong was diagnosed with advanced testicular cancer that had spread to his lungs and brain. He was given less than a 50% chance of survival, but after aggressive treatment, he recovered. Not just recovered, but returned to professional cycling. And not just returned to professional cycling, but between 1999 and 2005, he won the Tour de France 7 times in a row, something no one had ever done before. But even that wasn't enough. He founded the Livestrong Foundation, raised over $500 million for cancer support, and became a symbol of survival and resilience. Yet, despite the all-American image of a hero, rumors began spreading about a dark deception. Lance did more than just deny it. He attacked his accusers and sued them for defamation. And for years it worked, until it didn't. In 2012, the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency released a report calling Armstrong the leader of the most sophisticated, professionalized, and successful doping program that sport has ever seen. Testimony from 26 witnesses, including 11 former teammates, along with financial and communication records, showed he was abusing banned substances like EPO and testosterone. He was also coordinating blood transfusions and pressuring others to join him. The fall of Lance Armstrong was immediate. He was stripped of all 7 Tour de France titles, banned for life, and instantly dropped by sponsors like Nike, Trek, and Anheuser-Busch. He was forced to resign from Livestrong, and by the time he admitted to doping during a televised interview with Oprah Winfrey in 2013, the damage was done. He later had to pay over $20 million in legal settlements, including $5 million to the U.S. government for defrauding his team's sponsor. When he went down, the whole world watched a global hero lose his titles, sponsors, and legacy as the truth finally caught up to him. But Armstrong wasn't the only larger-than-life figure whose carefully crafted image would fall apart. Another American icon, once towering in fame, would face his own shocking downfall. This time, the disgrace wasn't professional, it was personal. At his peak, Tiger Woods wasn't just the face of golf, he was the face of excellence. Bursting onto the professional scene in 1996, Woods became the youngest player to win the Masters, doing it by a record margin. Over the next decade, he dominated the sport in a way few athletes ever had, winning 14 major championships and holding the #1 ranking for a record 683 weeks. To many, and not only golf fans, Woods was a symbol of the pursuit of greatness. But in 2009, his carefully controlled image shattered. A car crash outside his Florida home sparked a personal dispute, and people started looking into Tiger Woods a bit more carefully. Soon, stories emerged about marital infidelity. And what began as tabloid gossip exploded into a full-scale media firestorm as more than a dozen women came forward with claims of affairs. Sponsors like Gatorade and AT&T dropped him. Woods issued a public apology and took an indefinite break from professional golf. The impact didn't just affect his personal life. His dominance on the course faded too. While he eventually made a comeback years later, winning the 2019 Masters, the myth of Tiger Woods, the flawless, disciplined champion, was permanently tarnished and never fully recovered. Tiger's fall wasn't about criminal behavior, it was about how even the most carefully curated public images could collapse when the private truth broke through. And speaking of public image, our next icon lost control of his narrative entirely. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, revolutionized music, dance, and global pop culture. Albums like Thriller, Bad, and Dangerous set sales records that still stand today. Jackson's influence extended beyond music. He became a humanitarian figure, praised for his charity work. But people became increasingly suspicious of Jackson's personal life. In 1993, he was accused of inappropriate behavior involving a minor. Jackson denied the allegations and ultimately settled the case out of court with no admission of wrongdoing. Though his popularity took a hit, he continued to release music and tour internationally. But then, in 2005, Jackson faced a criminal trial on new charges involving another minor. After a highly publicized trial, he was acquitted on all counts. However, the damage to his reputation was lasting. Public opinion remained divided, and questions about his seemingly odd behavior haunted him. Controversy reignited in 2019 with the release of Leaving Neverland, a documentary in which 2 men detailed allegations of misconduct during their childhood. The documentary prompted some radio stations and public institutions to distance themselves from his work. Michael Jackson's fall wasn't as immediate or definitive as others, but it showed how even the most powerful global icons could have their legacies profoundly tainted by persistent allegations and public doubts. People still debate Jackson's guilt or innocence, with many reluctant to cast a deciding verdict. But our next figure? The allegations came fast, and the industry didn't wait for a verdict. With 2 Academy Awards for performances in The Usual Suspects and American Beauty, and a leading role in Netflix's first hit series House of Cards, Kevin Spacey was praised for his range, charisma, and authority both on screen and on stage. He also served as the artistic director of London's Old Vic Theatre, building a reputation not as a performer, but as someone who could build institutions. But then something happened that would annihilate his reputation. In 2017, actor Anthony Rapp publicly accused Spacey of inappropriate behavior dating back to when Rapp was a teenager. Spacey responded by saying he did not remember the incident, but his comments only fueled backlash. In the weeks that followed, more than 30 individuals came forward with allegations of misconduct spanning decades, including former staff members of the Old Vic. Netflix cut ties with Spacey right away, removing him from House of Cards and canceling other projects in development. Completed films either reshot his scenes with different actors or delayed release. Legal challenges followed, including multiple criminal investigations, although several cases were later dropped due to lack of evidence or procedural issues. Even without a criminal conviction, Spacey's career and reputation was severely damaged. He was essentially erased from Hollywood. But what happens when the accused can't be fired and has a royal buffer to protect him? Prince Andrew, Duke of York, was once a respected member of the British royal family. As a Royal Navy helicopter pilot, he served during the Falklands War and was praised for his actions in combat. In the decades that followed, he took on royal duties, represented the crown abroad, and maintained a relatively stable public image. But that reputation crashed after his connection to Jeffrey Epstein became public. Following Epstein's 2019 arrest and subsequent passing, attention focused on Andrew's long-standing friendship with him. Allegations surfaced that Andrew had engaged in misconduct involving a minor from Epstein's network. Allegations he strongly denied. In November 2019, Andrew gave a televised BBC interview attempting to explain his relationship with Epstein. However, the interview was widely criticized for its lack of remorse and outlandish claims. It didn't go over well with the public. Within days, Andrew stepped down from his royal duties. Organizations and charities cut ties with him. Buckingham Palace, with Queen Elizabeth's approval, removed his military titles and the use of His Royal Highness in official capacities. In 2022, Andrew settled a civil lawsuit brought by his accuser without admitting wrongdoing. His fall embarrassed the entire royal family in one of the institution's most shocking scandals in recent history. But what if a scandal doesn't involve a royal family, just a royal rumble? In the 1980s and 90s, Hulk Hogan turned professional wrestling into a global phenomenon. He helped bring it into the mainstream, starring in movies, commercials, and even children's cartoons. For millions of kids growing up, Hogan was a symbol of strength. But then, in the early 2000s, Hogan's personal life became increasingly public, as he starred in a reality TV show with family and financial problems gaining attention in the years that followed. Still, none of it seriously hurt his reputation. That is, until 2015, when a private recording leaked to the press. In the leaked audio, Hogan was caught using graphic, racially charged language during a private conversation. The recording didn't remain private and was available for the world to hear. World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE, terminated his contract. They even scrubbed him from its Hall of Fame website, and removed his presence from ongoing promotions. Sponsorships and partnerships quickly fell apart. Hogan issued a public apology, but the damage was already done. The man who once told fans to say their prayers and eat their vitamins had destroyed the trust he built over decades. For many, Hulk Hogan wasn't just another celebrity caught in a scandal, he was a childhood hero whose downfall felt personal. But what about an icon whose scandal exposed something far more disturbing and far more institutional? For decades, Jimmy Savile was one of Britain's most recognizable media personalities. As the host of hit TV shows like Top of the Pops and Jim'll Fix It, he built a public image as a flamboyant entertainer and tireless charity worker. Savile raised millions of pounds for hospitals, was knighted by Queen Elizabeth, and even received honors from the Vatican. To much of the public, he was seen as eccentric but ultimately benevolent, a celebrity who used his fame for good. But after his passing in 2011, a very different story emerged. In 2012, an investigation by ITV and later official reports revealed widespread allegations of serious misconduct by Savile, with hundreds of victims coming forward. Many incidents were alleged to have taken place in hospitals, schools, and even at BBC facilities during the height of his career. The scale and duration of the abuse shocked the nation. It was further revealed that rumors and complaints about Savile's behavior had circulated for decades, but were ignored, dismissed, or suppressed by institutions that benefited from his celebrity status. Savile's legacy was quickly dismantled. Statues were removed, public honors were revoked, and a formal apology was issued by the BBC. Investigations into how he was allowed to operate for so long prompted widespread changes in institutional safeguarding policies across the UK. Savile's downfall became a symbol of how fame and power could shield wrongdoing for decades. But what happens when you don't have fame or power, and you instead rely on junk science to hide your lies? Elizabeth Holmes was once hailed as the future of Silicon Valley. At just 19 years old, she dropped out of Stanford University and found Theranos, a health technology company that promised to revolutionize blood testing. Holmes claimed her company could run hundreds of tests from just a few drops of blood, cheaper, faster, and less invasive than anything on the market. Investors poured in nearly $1 billion. At its peak, Theranos was valued at $9 billion, and Holmes was celebrated as the youngest self-made female billionaire in history. But while Holmes graced magazine covers and gave keynote speeches, the science behind Theranos wasn't real. Employees raised concerns internally, but the company used aggressive legal tactics and tight secrecy to keep them silent. In 2015, the Wall Street Journal published an investigation revealing that Theranos' technology didn't work, and that the company had been using traditional machines for most of its testing. The fallout was drastic and immediate. Walgreens and other partners instantly cut off their relationships. Federal regulators banned Holmes from operating a lab. Lawsuits from investors, patients, and government agencies followed. In 2018, Holmes and Theranos president Ramesh Sunny Balwani were charged with massive fraud. In 2022, Holmes was convicted of 4 counts of fraud and conspiracy, and later sentenced to prison. Holmes made headlines when her fraud unraveled. Bernie Madoff, on the other hand, was already a financial legend, long before anyone realized what he was hiding. Bernie Madoff was a former chairman of the NASDAQ stock exchange. He built a reputation over decades as a brilliant investor and financial pioneer. Wealthy individuals, charitable foundations, universities, and even international banks trusted him to manage their money. To his clients, Madoff wasn't just successful, he was a safe bet. But the hidden truth was, Madoff wasn't investing the billions entrusted to him. Instead, he was running the largest known Ponzi scheme in history. Rather than earning returns through legitimate investments, he used new clients' money to pay fake profits to earlier investors, creating the illusion of steady growth. The scheme collapsed in late 2008 during the global financial crisis, when panicked clients tried to withdraw about $7 billion, money that did not exist. Total losses to clients were estimated at around $64 billion, including fake profits. Facing exposure, Madoff confessed to his sons, who turned him in to authorities. He was arrested the next day. In 2009, Madoff pleaded guilty to 11 federal felonies, including securities fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. He was sentenced to 150 years in prison. Madoff's scandal represented a loss of faith in our trusted industries. The last individual on our list represented something darker: how power in Hollywood can silence victims and reward the worst behavior. Harvey Weinstein was once one of the most powerful figures in Hollywood. As the co-founder of Miramax and the Weinstein Company, he produced critically acclaimed films like Pulp Fiction, Shakespeare in Love, and The King's Speech. His influence helped shape the modern independent film industry, and he earned a reputation as a kingmaker, with countless actors, directors, and screenwriters crediting him for their success. Weinstein was honored with numerous awards and even positioned himself as a public advocate for progressive causes. But behind all that, there were long-standing rumors of misconduct. In 2017, investigative reports by The New York Times and The New Yorker detailed decades of accusations from multiple women who claimed Weinstein had engaged in inappropriate behavior, often involving coercion and threats to their careers. The number of allegations quickly grew into the dozens. The victims were largely believed. Weinstein was fired from his company and expelled from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. He was publicly denounced by many former collaborators, which were numerous. His downfall helped ignite the broader Me Too movement, which brought widespread attention to harassment and abuse of women across industries. In 2020, Weinstein was convicted in New York of third-degree assault and first-degree criminal acts involving 2 women. He was sentenced to 23 years in prison. Considering his age and health, he will likely serve the rest of his life behind bars. Thank you very much for watching the video and making it to the end. If you're still watching, I assume and hope you liked it, so let's make it official. Give us a like, it really helps the channel. There should be another video on your screen right now that YouTube thinks you will like, so please check that one out too. And comment down below on what types of videos you'd like to see from the channel next. Thanks again, see you next time.